So as a follow-up to Dan, I was trying to get feedback from all the students, figure out what it was they were looking for next. One of the big things that they wanted was a second character, one with different bodily proportions than Dan. So that's where Alex here came in. So Alex is me. That's my hat that he's wearing. This is not necessarily a very good likeness of me. I have a scarecrow anatomy. So the muscles were more as a way of making it different than Dan, who has a similar scarecrow physique. Now the Dan model was based on a drawing by my coworker Dan Roth of himself. He draws himself very distinctively in a very funny way that would be recognizable to all the students, so I recreated that. And in making Alex, I decided I wanted to make a something along the same lines. I took a few liberties with it just because this is my character of me, so. But something that could stand side by side with Dan and look like it belonged with him. Because again, part of the reason is for having two different characters, or two different characters with different body types, is that they can be side by side and contrast that way. And then there was a lot of like, they'd take a drawing of Dan, and they'd take Dan and change his color palette, and you know, they'd have Dan and Evil Dan or something, and that worked fine. But having a second actual body type of character was very useful. So that's where Alex comes in. Now, Alex's rig is it's pretty simple in a lot of ways. He doesn't have the same stretchy thing. If I put him into IK mode here, right, he doesn't have the extra spline options. He does have IK and FK, full controls for both his arms. So right now they're in FK mode. It rotates. These rotate. Okay, like so. It's all well and good. He's kind of hit himself in the face. That's not the best demonstration. And once again, the wrists all twist. If you twist them too far, they begin to look a little bit like licorice. If you twist them a little farther than that, then it actually snaps to the other side. So there is limitations, but those limitations are actually beyond what human limitations are, so it shouldn't be that big a deal. And once again, the twists, he actually also has them on the upper arms as well. So you notice as I twist the upper arm, it doesn't actually make it as far as the shoulder. The same applies to his legs. Just put one of his legs into FK mode there. As I twist this leg, the twist doesn't make it as far as the hips. And that keeps the mesh from doing weird, bizarre things. Weird and bizarre at the same time. Okay, and the legs also have a gradual twist. That's one thing I forgot to showcase is Dan actually has these two, the twist, in upper and lower limbs on both sides. So IK-FK switches. Put the arm into IK mode. Control with IK. Should be pretty familiar with that at this point. And the shoulder controllers, and Alex here has pretty big shoulders, so you know, you don't want to ignore them. Up, down, forward, back. He's got that covered. The spine uses the identical spine system that Dan does, however it does not stretch. Okay, if you pull it too far, the controller just comes off, but the model does not exceed its bounds. So it just controls this way. It will become neither shorter nor longer than the original mesh could. And that's just it's just a slightly different way I set it up, and I just decided to make it that way because that wasn't what this character is all about. He's all about being really solid and consistent in style. So this rig does not do that. You can still switch his spine effectively into FK mode. Okay. Now ordinarily this would lock out the translations here, but I didn't actually want to do that. I didn't want to prevent you from translating it, but what this does is it actually lets you rotate it from the center point as if there were a center joint to the spine. Okay, so effectively all that does is turn this controller on and off, because you don't need it. You can animate this way. Okay, what it will do is, camera's being a little weird there, change the center point so that you can modify the position of the upper torso as if there were a center joint in the middle. So you can animate like in IK mode. As a demonstration of that, if I select this and the chest and rotate them both, he bends like this, like you'd be more or less accustomed to with characters doing. Okay, so that is the IK-FK mode. Additional controllers he has here. He has extra blend shapes in addition to the ones that control his face, like Dan does, that control his fist. If you turn it up, you notice that this actual controller turns into a fist as well. Just going to geek out about that for a second. Things Unnecessary Volume 2. But what that does is it actually turns off all the hand controllers. They no longer have any influence. And it constrains all the joints to separate points to make it look exactly like a fist. And then it has a nice corrective blend shape to make it look perfectly like a fist. Okay, because just with skinning, you can make it an okay fist, but it's not quite perfect. Whereas if I turn on the actual fist controller, it's like 120% fist. Much better. So, that is the purpose of that, and this character being the brick that he is going to get a lot of punching done. So, I figured that would be handy. Other interesting things, if you click on this master controller to move him around, okay, he actually has a character scale. All these are just the physical indicators of the IKFK switches, don't worry about them. But the character scale, you notice, is not colored in any way, and that just changes the size of the character. And you can make him whatever size you want. So he's clearly big, but exactly how colossal he is at your discretion. More things inside of his face controllers here. He has a lot of the same ones as Dan, not quite the same range. And he has a less expressive face. A lot of that is due to his lack of eyes. He just doesn't have any eyes at all. Just the way the character is designed. So, he can move his jaw. He can still move his tongue, but now instead of working with joints, it's just blend shape, so the tongue moves up and the tongue moves out. And you can combine those things as much as you want. You can make him make some minor facial expressions with it, but he's not as metal as Dan, I guess you could say. So, that all still works the same. He does not have a fangs controller, because again, not quite that metal. Lips go in and out. He has that same controller for the same purpose. One thing that Dan doesn't have is cheeks. You can puff his cheeks out or in. It was another thing I got feedback on that they wanted added for dialogue, was the ability to puff out the cheeks. And also because he's kind of mad, you can make him fuming like that. Pucker, ooh, makes a pucker shape. More or less how you'd expect. Okay, the smile is I quite like it. It's barely a smile, tiny little grin and frown. Again, not very emotive. And he's already kind of frowning, so the frown isn't that intense either. Sneer works the same way. He lifts up his teeth, or his lower teeth. It's actually one of the most expressive things that you can make him do is the sneer, which kind of makes sense for the character. Okay, and then of course the relevant facial expression things. B, E, T, H. So for, basketball, he can purse his lips together. For, what's an E word? Beach, you can make the E. Lips I have set to be his lips protruding, that's why everything looks a little weird here. Yeah. Lower lip won't be sticking out now. TH, D, and F/V. All of his facial expressions. Now, he has 5 additional ones here, and they're labeled custom 1 through 5, and they will do nothing. The reason being, under the outliner, if you go, there's a group right here called blend shape meshes. I've never said that word first try in all my life. There will be a number of blend shapes, this army of Alexes that you see here. The first few, these are actually the fist ones. It looks a little weird in that pose, but they make really nice fists when you turn them on. If we go all the way over here, these last 5 are custom, and they're actually labeled to make them selectable. Custom 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, you can see them right in here. Custom 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And what these are for is you can make your own. Let's say, give him a narwhal tusk, like so. That's weird. Okay, so that's custom 1. Now if I put keys on the custom 1 here, he will sprout a narwhal horn whenever I turn that on and off. And so custom 1 through 5 is just to allow you to make your own changes or your own facial expressions or anything. They don't have to be on his face. You can make his muscles get bigger, like a flex kind of thing. Basically I added this in because instead of trying to anticipate every single thing that every student might want to do, I just made the opportunity for the students to customize the rig on their own. So that's one of the ways that I try to improve on the Dan model with this one. So this guy functions as the second character for students to animate with. Oh, and I guess one thing to point out is his neck does not have an IK-FK switch. It's just FK mode. Again, the neck IK was not all that important for the character, and so this guy just has that. So that is him. One thing worth noting, the actual IK-FK switches, you'll note when I switch into a different control scheme, the colors are different. That's something I try to do, is in addition to making things different shaped, like it's kind of hard to mistake these controls for these controls, different shapes, but FK controllers are always red. IK controllers are always green. Alright? And generally controllers that you can both move and rotate, like the torso controller here, and his hips. It's it's a weird motion for the character to make. They'll be yellow. So everything is kind of color-coded accordingly. You don't really have to remember that color coding, but that's just there so that when you turn things on and off, you can kind of tell that it's something distinct from what it was before. And something I forgot to point out again with Dan. Alright, that is pretty much it for the Alex character. It's pretty straightforward. Oh, and he also has the heel, toe, ball. The staples of being able to animate with him. And that is that.